I'm not sure anyone here is undecided, but I'm sure that many of us would like to be out of here before 9 o'clock. Okay. We have a special guest here tonight, Corporal Jessica Allen, and I believe General Raymond G. Davis is here. If those folks would come forward and lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jessica, come to the microphone and tell us about what you do.
About the Young Marine, sir?
Come to the microphone.
Yes, sir.
You're here in uniform.
Sir.
What brings you here tonight?
What brought me here tonight was Red Ribbon Week, and Red Ribbon Week is all about a young or a man with the name of Enrique Kiki Camarena, and he was really poor growing up. He actually grew up on a dirt floor in California, and so he really wanted a scholarship or education, and so then he got an education, went to college, became a police officer, then a fireman, and then he decided that he wanted to do something more. So what he did, he became a DEA officer. His mom really didn't like the idea, so he moved to Mexico on a really big drug cartel case. And he was about to go out, eat with his wife and his children, when he locked up all the stuff and went across to his car, and people from the cartel kidnapped him, tortured him, and killed him. He was found a month later in a shallow grave, and then people heard about it from where he was born and raised, and people really felt sorry for him, so they started Kiki clubs all around the United States, and then it came up to the president, and he finally declared the very last week of October Ribbon Week.
Well, and so we're celebrating that week.
Yes, sir.
And you brought that to our attention, and thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Good to have you here. Let's have a hand for Jessica Allen. Proclamation to read in conjunction with this, and you've probably stolen my thunder, but that's wonderful. I'll try to read this proclamation very briefly. It's National Red Ribbon Week, and we were all asked to wear red, and David is wearing blue, but tomorrow he's going to have a red tie on. Rich DePolito got the message. Betty Price got the message. Jerry Orland's got the message, and Kay Love got the message. So tomorrow I expect everyone here to have red on. It can be a tie, it can be a bow tie, it can be a ribbon. This is a bow. It's kind of a ribbon around the neck. And thank you for... Anyway, back to my job of reading the proclamation. National Red Ribbon Week. Whereas communities across America have been plagued by numerous drug problems associated with illicit drug use, and whereas there is hope of winning the war on drugs, and that hope lies in education and drug demand reduction, coupled with hard work and determination of organizations such as the Young Marine of the Marine Corps League to foster a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. And whereas governments and community leaders know that citizen support is one of the most effective tools in the effort to reduce the use of illicit drugs in our community. And whereas the red ribbon has been chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Enrique Kiki Camarena, a Drug Enforcement Administration agent who was murdered in the line of duty and represents the belief that one person can make a difference. And whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention and reduction efforts, and whereas October 23rd through October 31st has been designated as National Red Ribbon Week, which encourages Americans to wear a red ribbon to show their support for a drug-free environment, Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim October 23rd and through the 31st is National Red Ribbon Week, and urge all of our citizens to join me in this special observance and to wear a red ribbon. One more hand for the National Red Ribbon Week. Thank you for coming. And we have a Boy Scout who we have not put on the spot. Gentlemen, come forward. We make it a point. And the mayor came in, but we're not going to put the mayor on the spot. Come forward, young man, and tell us your name, rank, and not your serial number, but your troop and where you all meet.
My name is Vincent Sayre. I'm a Life Scout of 7153 out of Johns Creek. I live here, though. I just came here to take some notes and get a merit badge done. Welcome to Roswell, and keep working on that marriage badge. And Councilman Orleans and I are former Boy Scouts, and Councilmember Price is the proud mother of an Eagle Scout, and my brother and I were Eagle Scouts. So hope you keep it up and join the club. Let's have a hand for this young man. Thank you for coming. We have a presentation, and if Councilman Eichelhart will introduce that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a presentation of the Georgia Recycling Coalition Spirit of Green Award to the Roswell Recycling Center. And we've got some special guests with us to present that, but I'm going to let Mr. Mooring give us the details on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We're very proud to receive this award, and I would like to introduce Ms. Gloria Hardigree. Gloria is the Executive Director of the Georgia Recycling Coalition, and she's here for a special award. Gloria.
Thank you, Stu. Good evening. It's my great pleasure to present the 2012 Georgia Recycling Coalition Spirit of Green Award to the Roswell Recycling Center. It's our outstanding government and community program of the year. This award is given to the local program that exemplifies the comprehensive and sustainable components and practices in recycling and waste reduction. Certainly, we've known for many years that Roswell is a leader in our state in recycling at the top tier, and we appreciate your continued dedication of resources to this center, serving your citizens, protecting our environment, and supporting the thousands of green jobs in the recycling industry in Georgia. Thank you very much.
We are honored. Let's have a hand for this award and all the folks who made this possible. Before we join you to get our photograph taken with you and this award, I have a proclamation to read. And this is America Recycles Day in Roswell. When I say this, that will be November 15th will be America's Recycle Day in Roswell. So I have a proclamation read on that occasion. Whereas the recycling market infrastructure in Georgia makes it one of the most prominent recycling states in the nation. Viable markets exist in the state for paper, aluminum, steel, plastics, glass, tires, organics, and electronics. And whereas recycling creates jobs and has a positive impact on communities throughout Georgia. And whereas Georgia is the second largest pulp and paper producing state in the nation, accounting for over $10 billion of annual product sales and $1 billion of annual payroll, the 15 mills in the state use recycling content materials for their production, with 9 of them relying exclusively on recycled materials for their production. And whereas recycling saves energy, conserves water and other non-renewable resources, and reduces greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in better air quality. And whereas a 2005 waste disposal characterization study funded through the Solid Trust Fund, I think that'd be the Solid Waste Trust Fund, reported that Georgia annually discarded over 2.6 million tons of commonly recyclable materials, including 1.9 million tons of recyclable paper, producing millions of dollars worth of raw materials valued to the Georgia manufacturers, And whereas sustainable recycling programs provide raw materials that businesses need to grow and thrive and promote private sector investment in public programs. And whereas the City of Roswell is pleased to announce that the Roswell Recycling Center will hold a Facebook Question of the Day contest, as well as a Question of the Day contest at the Recycling Center, partner with the City of Milton on Bulky Trash Amnesty Day on November 10th, a Shred Fest on November 17th, and have a customer appreciation event on November 24th, as well as add latex paint recycling to the citizens of Roswell. And whereas the Roswell Recycling Center was recently awarded, as recently as tonight, the Georgia Recycling Coalition Spirit of Green Award for Outstanding Government Programs. And whereas the City of Roswell and Keep Roswell Beautiful encourage all citizens to complete a pledge form promising to recycle more at the Recycling Center and curbsides of their home. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim November 15, 2012 as Roswell Recycles Day in Georgia, in Roswell, and encourage all of our citizens to participate. And with that, the council we'd like to join you for a photo op. And one other person would like to join us up here, if he wishes to, is the mayor who began our recycling program, Roswell, Mayor Mabry. Mayor, if you can join us if you wish, or you can continue to remain anonymous, but you're never anonymous in here at City Hall. So if you'd like to come forward and join us for a photo op, we'd appreciate it. Council, let's join the mayor.
Here we go. We'll do this.
Right here, Mayor. Want you right here. Good to see you. Didn't know you were going to get you'd have dressed up and go get your picture taken, wouldn't you?
Try not me yet.
Very good. Thank you. One more hand. It's good to see the mayor working the crowd. Stu has something more to say.
Yes, sir. I was remiss.
He always does.
You know that I have, that the department and the city have a fantastic staff. This particular award is attributable to our citizens, but largely to the efforts of Janet Liberman, our environmental programs manager, and her staff. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a hand for Janet Lieberman and her staff. Next, I'd like to call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond for the vision statement, tagline, and core values presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I think Ms. Kay Love is going to start us off, and then Mr. Steve Stroud will be doing part of this from the Roswell Business Alliance. I'll let them take it away.
Thank you. Let's see if we can get technology to work with us. Over the last 9 or so months, we have been working together as a community. It certainly started when we embarked upon the Community Leadership Exchange Program, where we went and visited Greenville, South Carolina, to see some of the things that they were doing and some of the things that we learned about what makes them a successful community and how they generated positive change in their community. And we came back and began meeting with a variety of stakeholder groups, the mayor and the council and the department heads and people out in the community, to gather ideas about what Roswell is, what we would like it to be in the future, and how to get there. And we've had a lot of help along the way with the stakeholders, and particularly in facilitating our meetings. Jim Vitale and Charlie Feehan both are here tonight, if you raise your hand. They've helped us along with facilitation, along with some other folks. At the committee meeting on September 26th, we previewed to you a revised vision statement, values, and a tagline for the city. And so for some of you, this will be a semi-repeat. For others who may not have seen it before, we want to share it with the community at this time as we begin making some plans for the future of Roswell. What's before you on the screen now is a graphic depiction of all the things that the city's been working on over the last few years. The city's invested money in a variety of plans and studies and initiatives, some of which are already completed, such as the Strategic Economic Development Plan. We just left a work session regarding the Unified Development Code project, where we're trying to make things easier, streamlined. The Vision Project, the Georgia 400 Holcomb Bridge Road Corridor Study, where we leveraged our money with federal dollars. There are projects that have come out of that, some of which we've leveraged money with GDOT. There's a consideration for other projects in the current budget, as well as others that are on the upcoming bond referendum. We have the Transportation Master Plan that was adopted a number of years ago that's currently being revitalized, and a number of other things, Cultural Arts Strategic Plan and all of those things that you can see there. Then we've been talking about strategic framework and how to build that, starting with our values and then the shared vision, the mission, the business that the city is in, and how we're going to make the vision happen, and then certainly the branding and marketing and positioning of this city. And one of the biggest things that we've done in that arena is enter into a partnership with the Roswell Business Alliance, whereby they are assisting us with our branding, marketing, and most recently have taken on that economic development partnership with the city. And these are the elements that need to be in place for us to move forward. The city has had a number of values where those of us that wear an ID badge, they're printed on the back of our ID badge, and I would venture to say that if you ask a number of employees or people in the community what they were, they probably couldn't tell you, because I don't know that they actually were values or they actually meant anything. So one of the things that has come out of this initiative is what we stand for. What are the things that we believe in? What are the things that are important to us that we would build this framework upon? And those are up on the screen. Respect, flexibility, inclusion, communication, trust, courage, and innovation. And I'll let you read the definitions of those. It's one of the things that we spent some time after the fact taking a look at, and the management team was made up of the department heads, and myself and the deputy city administrator spent a day-and-a-half long mini retreat in town with a facilitator where we took a look at that to see how that when we reach out to the community in delivery of services and execute the plans that you put in place, how we could build upon that and they could be more broad-reaching and more of a community effort. And then we started talking about the vision, and of course the vision is the desired future state of where our community is going to be, or where we hope that it's going to be, and using that guidance for the projects that we pursue and being very strategic in the way we do that. That's one of the lessons learned in Greenville, is that there's never enough money to do all the things that we want to do, and we've known that for a very long time, but to better place our resources strategically so that we leverage them and we do the things that are important in our community that will move us forward in the best way. So we've looked at a lot of other cities' visions. We looked at the one that we had. And at one point, the one that's on your screen was created, and there was some general consensus around it. However, we talked about more in depth about what that actually meant, and it wasn't more future stated. It needed to be energetic. It should draw people in. It should not require a lot of explanation, that people should immediately understand it and most certainly be able to remember it. Well, when you get to these certain ages, we can't remember all those words. So we said, does family-oriented really mean that we're including all the interest that we are trying to attract, from young adults to singles to seniors and so forth and so on. So there began to be a lot of discussion around that, and we looked at the words that kept coming up in our conversations. And if you look to the back of the room, there's a banner on the back wall, and the bigger the words, the more that word appeared in the feedback that we received from our stakeholder groups in the community in general. So you see a lot about river, community, entrepreneurial, connecting, and of course Roswell being a really big word, and you'll see a little bit more about that. So born out of that was a vision statement to be the premier riverside community connecting strong neighborhoods and the entrepreneurial spirit. We felt like that captured all the research that we'd done, the feedback, and really gave us the top reasons that businesses or residents want to be a part of the Roswell community. Now, there was a good bit of discussion related to the word river and riverside. And one of the facilitation meetings that we had, we talked about what that really meant to Roswell, and Roswell being one of the few cities in the region with a broad and diverse river access. It's the reason that our town was created, because of the river. It's also a very precious resource to us, and Roswell is very environmentally conscious, and knowing that that's a precious resource to us. In our logo, there's a water wheel. The mill area and the other areas in town, there are many amenities. The city has spent over $17 million in the last 12 years on river amenities, whether that's developing parks or acquiring park land. So we have certainly made that commitment to these projects along the river, and that being an area that we want to focal. It is a vital differentiation that makes us unique in many ways. It's certainly a nod to our history related to that. It also speaks to recreation, whether that be on the river or beside the river. The mission statement, we're not going to talk too much about tonight, but basically that is more internal focus. It's what business are we in? It's not real exciting, but it does speak to what we're responsible to do. In the strategic framework that we talked about related to how to make this happen, one of the things that we looked at with Greenville in particular is a group called Greenville Forward, and there's a lot of information on their website, and they created categories and strategies to come up with strategic initiatives to execute and deploy the shared vision and the plans for their city. So out of our working groups, we talked a lot about strategies and projects, and there were two different groups kind of working simultaneously to talk about the projects that would come out of this shared vision. And we reviewed all of this information, and we came up with basically 6 categories. And they're on the screen there: cultural arts and history, lifelong learning and education, travel and tourism, business and economic development, recreation and entertainment, support services, and infrastructure. And with each one of those, we took some time to think about the actions that would be required to support those categories, who might need to be involved, and where we might go with that. And I won't read these to you, but they're up on the screen. This happens to be the cultural arts and history category. It is not all-inclusive. There are many other aspects that will be continued as we move through this process, as the mayor and council determine what our plan of action is going to be moving forward. There's lifelong and learning and education. The items that make up that category at the moment: travel and tourism, business and economic development. Here's where our partnerships come into play most definitely, that are in place right now and those that we are building. Recreation and entertainment, and support services and infrastructure. This is certainly a place where the city of Roswell will play a critical role. One of the biggest messages, I think, to come out of this is not what the city's going to do, take a plan and put it on a shelf, or the city even do all these. What this does is facilitates and enables us as a community to move us forward with the shared vision. I'd like to call on Steve Stroud, Executive Director of the Roswell Business Alliance, and talk to the partnership from a branding and marketing standpoint.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would first of all thank Charlie Feehan and Jim Vitale. They're co-chairs of our Marketing Branding Committee, 2 business people located here in Roswell, 2 committed folks that have spent endless hours over the last 10 months since the RBA creation, and they kicked off in January with this effort. This effort goes back and is dated to 2010 in January, when Councilman Diamond put together a committee of business folks, community citizens, with the objective of trying to market Roswell, to try to get Roswell an image, try to change the image of where we were in Roswell and how we do business in Roswell. And I thank them. In this process, we've had 220 citizens and individual business people involved in the process. You know, when you do branding, you see it up there, we got a brand position. We got to position Roswell for who we are and what we're about. We obviously have to have a positioning statement that tells what we're about, a tagline. And we've got to market and communicate that not only to our citizens but outside of Roswell, but to all of the community and the world around us. All right, let me get this fancy button to work. Are you changing them for me?
I did.
Thank you. No, that's perfect. Got an assistant. Understanding ourselves when we do it and when we brand ourselves. Doing a brand audit. That was part of the process. To understand, who are our target markets? Are our target markets, are we marketing from a business side to industrial? Are we trying to bring in plants? What are we looking for? Who are we? What are we all about? Find the connections. Find those basic connections. Okay? Find out where we work in the community. What are the communities? The cultural arts. I saw Lee here, J. Lee Howard. Working that together, putting those collaborations together, working together with the business community and the residents. How do we communicate it? How do we make those marketing? How do we position this? How do we occupy, it says, a distinctive valued place, promise and experience. Our challenge was to get the citizens and the business community to talk. Obviously, economic development plays a big key role, and travel and tourism, those are the pieces that make up our community. That's what we're all about. That's what Roswell is. Okay, in brand positioning, finding those connections was so important. You see in this slide, actually, how the three come together. But what makes the three? The heart and soul of Roswell. The people of Roswell. That's what makes Roswell. We talked about the river, and we'll talk even more about that, how important that is. In 1854, we were open for business. That's our tagline. We're open for business since 1884. What brought those folks here? What brought Roswell King? The river brought them for the business and open business in Roswell. The brand positioning is very important, and we need to look at that. The vision of Roswell. Who are we? What are we about? What do we stand for? What are our key assets? Why do we have those assets? How do we build on those assets? The brand positioning, the core descriptions. Okay, it was very clear that we are very family friendly. We have a strong sense of community, and when folks come here and they look at Roswell, why do they want to be in Roswell? They want to come to Roswell not only to eat on Canton Street, but they want to come because of the recreation. They want to come because of the schools. They come and relocate. And by the way, I'm proud to announce to you, Mr. Mayor and Council, we have 3 locations with 60 new jobs that are in Roswell now today in the last 30 days, thanks to the vision of this council and this mayor. We can be very proud that we've had 1 relocation from San Diego that will be taking place in December. We have 1 from Sandy Springs. I'm sorry, Sandy Springs. But we've got 20 new jobs at the mill, thanks to the folks at Human Spark, who saw the vision. They saw what Roswell was about. They lived in East Cobb. They still live in East Cobb. But guess what? They saw what we're all about. They saw the value. They saw the vision. They saw where we were moving. And we're also proud to say that we've got a regional headquarters moving from Jacksonville that will be located, and as of this week, in the Mansell Overlook area with 40 jobs. So we're excited about what's happening in Roswell. Why are they coming? They're coming because we have a vision. We have a place to land. Obviously, our brand and positioning is going to be key and important. We did some research, and I say that we, the committee, did some research with some benchmarks, and you can see the report right here. The resident survey was in January 2011. An entire database with several hundred were put out there. We used comp cities, 40 to 50 comp cities, to use that data to come back to what we had. Roswell was rated considerably above in public trust, city services, and safety. The only thing was traffic, and we know traffic is an issue. You'll hear more about, and traffic is not because, as Janet would tell you, and probably will before the night's over, the traffic comes through Roswell. They don't stay. And that's where that's one of our big issues. We know and will continue to work on that. The branding position, the benchmark report of the survey said we have most favorable ratings in the quality of life, the community we live in, and the safety. Once again, the reasons for living in Roswell is location, location, location. The neighborhoods, the schools, and the parks. The biggest concern continues to be traffic. In March of this year, we actually did a survey of all 5,200 businesses here in Roswell. As you can see, we had 102 responses. 64% of the folks that are business licensed folks that responded live in Roswell. That's a great statistic. The top reason they chose Roswell, well, again, was location. 63% of them chose Roswell for location. In that, obviously, in that survey, the top two scores were rental rates and the tax environment that we live in. And then again, you go down, location, access to highway, commute time, economic incentives. Those are the reasons that the businesses responded back to us. Well, after we found all these statistics, we came back to two key things. The most important attributes that we have, the key motivators, and the common values we have. They continue to come back with Roswell has soul. But all three of these groups and these circles you see up here, the business drives the residents drive the business, the tourism. And what is tourism? Tourism's not folks that just come and spend the night. Tourism's the folks that we saw at Alive After 5 from Gwinnett and DeKalb and Fayette County that come up here and hear about us daily for the day trips. Because the day trips that's what Roswell's about. It's about the tourism that we bring in daily and people spend money. Kay pointed out the chart on the back wall. Look at the word Roswell. Look at the word connecting. Look at the word creating river. Entrepreneurial. That's what Roswell's about. Those words kept coming over and over and over as we continued this process. Roswell understands it needs to deliver the services. That's key for what's going on with the city. It says, you can see here, it says, I can have it all in Roswell. I can find it all in Roswell. Absolutely. Is it here? If it's not here in Roswell, then you're in the wrong spot. I guarantee it's here. We're the people, we're the business culture. Everything thrives because it's here. It just needs to be promoted. It needs to be shown that it is here and why it's here. There is going to be a perfect balance between the citizens and, obviously, the folks that do business. Roswell, here's the theme. Right in the heart of what matters. Obviously, we're in the heart. We're in the intersection. Just ask Steve Asenbrack at the intersection of Alpharetta Highway and Holcomb Bridge Road. At those 90,000 cars a day. We're in the heart, but we're also in the heart and soul of where people want to relocate and they want to live. We're in the driver's seat, and it's up to us, but we have to have a vision. So when we talk to those people in San Diego, and we talk to those people in Detroit, and we talk to those people in Chicago, and we talk to those people in Sandy Springs, guess what they commonly say? We want to come for your quality of life. We want to be a part of what you're about. You have vision. Continue to build on those visions. We've seen it over and over in the places we've been. Greenville is a great example, and I encourage you to do another trip because that bonded many, many people in this community. But they have a vision, and the vision is not for today. It's not for my 16-year-old. It's for my grandkids. That's the vision, and we continue to work on a vision for life, and that's how we continue to be successful. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll help continue this vision in this process.
Thank you, Steve Stroud. Before I entertain it, we're here to get council's response and a vote from council on whether or not to adopt this vision statement. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? And if so, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. I see no questions or yes. Come forward, please.
She's got that.
Janet Russell, 260 Willow Springs Drive. Just a quick question. Nice vision statement. Nice idea about connecting people, culture, art, tourism, business. No mention of public transportation. Are you going to get specific later, or are we just going to hope it falls out of the sky like pollen in May?
I will tell you what we are doing. At the last meeting of the North Fulton Municipal Association, we asked Mayor Bodker to take to the Atlanta Regional Commission proposal to do a study for bus routes in North Fulton, how we might be able to adjust those bus routes to better serve North Fulton County. So as the mayors are trying to go into the ARC to ask for assistance in getting better better serve North Fulton County, and the mayors of Fulton and DeKalb are also trying to encourage a development of regional transit authority, and we have the support of the mayors to do that.
Okay, and your vision statement, too, it's pretty impressive. I like living here. You know, I picked it like an adopted child. I was not born here.
Because you had vision, clearly.
I have more vision than you could ever imagine, Mayor Wood. More vision than probably this whole city council. Because I don't sit up there, I sit back here.
And you have a way with words, too.
I do indeed, Mayor. I would like to see the city of Roswell be a little more proactive and not worry about DeKalb County and what they decide to do with public transport. I have brought up a couple of ideas about transportation to connect this city and its communities of all ages. It seems to fall on deaf ears since all of you have your own car and live in a gated community at the end of a cul-de-sac. So I would like and invite any of you to invite me to sit down, and I will give you my ideas, which happen to be quite visionary. And I won't charge you unless you feel you need to pay a high consultant fee, which seems to be de rigueur here in the city. You don't listen to anyone unless you've paid them $30,000.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment? Yes, sir. Come forward. If you give us your name and address, we'd love to hear from you.
Joe Piontek, 2785 Roxburgh, the other Willow Springs. Mr. Mayor, Council, I just wanted to chime in here and say that I was slightly involved in this, not at the level that Charlie and Jim and the other 220 people were, but I can tell you I saw a lot of work go into this, and where you can quibble over a word or two in a mission statement, it's obvious that what we've come up with is a good value proposition. We've got our key activities and our partners and our resources, and now we're just trying to determine the right channel to bring this message to the rest of the areas so that people will start bringing their businesses to Roswell. And I think in the hands of Steve Stroud and Nancy and the folks that worked on this, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Would anyone else have any questions or comments? Good to hear from you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. Councilmember Diamond.
I'd like to have anybody who was involved in any of this, if you wouldn't mind standing up. I think we've got a pretty good representation just of the population we have in the room.
Let's have a hand for these folks. Thank you. I will.
And I think to the question of the paid consultant, I think Jim actually paid for our dinner one night. I don't think he got much of it. I think he kind of came out in the hole on this deal. But we really appreciate Jim Vitale, Charlie Feehan, June Holder from UPS Branding has been instrumental from the beginning too. And it's just been an amazing ride and effort. And I appreciate that the Greenville trip came along at a perfect time to kind of give some breath underneath the wings to get that moving. Assuming that I guess I can do the motion, and then if anybody's interested in the next steps, which would be the communications plan.
Let's get a motion passed.
Okay. I would move that we adopt the vision statement, tagline, and core values as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. She was the quickest. Any further discussion? Councilmember Price.
And not to beat a dead horse, because I think that there's a lot of wonderful stuff here, but is there any room for like modifications, or is it too late for that?
I would suggest that there's always room for improvement. There's always room for modification, but I'd like to move forward tonight. And all of us want to see the debate.
I was just going to propose an additional core value, if that's possible. And that's
you may move for an amendment.
I'd just like to amend the core values to add the value of excellence, in that I think we strive to be the very best, and I think that would be nice to have that reflected in our in our values.
I'm getting a nod from Jim and Charlie, which is positive.
That's great.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any additional discussion? Councilmember DiPolito.
I just wanted to commend Councilwoman Diamond for all her hard work, and this couldn't have happened without her. So she really drove the bus here, and there were so many people who were involved in this. But it takes leadership, and that's what Nancy provided to the process, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Jim Vitale, because we had a very lively debate. Lasted maybe about 45 minutes on the vision statement about using the word Riverside. And so I wasn't one that was really sold on that, but after he beat me down. So
he lifted you up.
He lifted me up. He made me see the light. But I want to thank him for really. What I liked about Jim was he was not a consultant. He was a facilitator, and he really let the community and the stakeholders and the people who really have the passion for Roswell. They're the ones that made this. He was just there just to make sure that it's like herding cats, and he did a fantastic job. So my hat off to Jim, to Charlie, and all the people that were on the committee that dedicated their time, because I know you all have jobs and very busy. So, again, thank you all so very much for doing this for our city.
One more hand for these folks. Let's do it. Let's do it again. Any other folks who want to say good words?
We have to say good words in that case. But thanks again, like everyone else, to all the hours and hours and great input. And each one of us, and you add the 220, we'd all probably quibble on a word or two. But the important thing is now everybody's in the same boat. All the cats are being herded in the same direction. And I think everybody is on board to go the same way, generally. Maybe not everybody all the time, but it's what our city needed. And so thank you for that work and for everyone who put this forward. And now we can move forward.
Councilmember Owens, you have to say something, otherwise you'll be the only one who hasn't.
Well, I've told them personally, the two gentlemen that were kind of orchestrating it, and Jim, really appreciate you doing it without any consulting fees involved and buying us dinner. And Charlie, you've always been very helpful on a lot of events going on in town through your business, and then jumping into this and helping us out. And then all the people that are here tonight that partake in this process. Plus, I think there's probably another 40 people that aren't even here tonight that were involved. So it's just been a great process, and looking forward to more of this involvement from the citizens going forward on other things that we're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would like to close by thanking all 220 people who they counted and all the folks they didn't count. I have seen a lot of studies taken in the city of Roswell. David Davidson and I were discussing it. We estimated that if we had contracted this out, it probably would have cost us $100,000, and we probably would have put it on the shelf after we got it and not been nearly as happy with it because it was not grown organically from the folks who really understood Roswell. So to Nancy Diamond and Jim Vitale and Charlie Feehan and everyone in this room and everyone who participated and the council who's about to vote in favor of it, as mayor, I want to thank you for a job well done. Let's give them one more hand. All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes.
Does it include the amendment?
Oh.
Yes.
We're voting on the amendment and the motion. All in favor of the amendment and the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, you can go home and turn on your set, and we hope we'll join you soon. But it doesn't look good. This time, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Eichelhart, second by Councilman Orleans. All in favor of the motion? Anyone have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Moving right along, I'll call upon Environmental Public Works, Councilman Kent Eichelhart.
Thank you, Mr.
This is a
Mayor.
big subject, so I will not try to rush you, Councilman.
Only item on this piece is the approval of the water treatment plant conceptual plan, the approval to issue an RFP for design engineering services, and approval to submit a GFA loan application in the amount not to exceed $16.2 million. And allow Mr. Mooring to start us off. I'll come back later.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Eichelhardt. I will have a brief summary presentation to summarize the results of 10 months of discussion and study, collaboration with the Recreation and Parks Department, the Recreation Commission, and a considerable amount of public input. In December of last year, we were approved for a new water withdrawal permit on Big Creek by the Georgia EPD, and our plans are to develop a 3 million gallon a day water treatment plant with associated appurtenances. One of the critical parts of that is a 10 million gallon raw water storage tank, since we do not have a reservoir on site. This will also involve a new intake structure on the creek that will provide for much more beneficial collection of the water. This is the what has come to be known as option 3TB. There were a number of options that were considered, and this was the consensus of the Public Works Public Safety Committee for this particular plan. This would be, we're calling it 3TA. This would be the layout during construction. The current water plant is right here. The sediment lagoons are located here. Sediment lagoons will be closed, and the plant will be built on approximately this footprint.
Please use the microphone.
Thank you. The plant would be built on approximately this footprint. It's hard to see in the photo, but this is a storage yard that would be relocated into this location. And during the construction period, some of the parking area for the soccer fields will be made unusable, and so we will provide temporary parking in this location. The water tank will locate where the current maintenance building is for Waller Park Extension. The two buildings located there will be relocated into the current yard of the Recreation Department, and otherwise there will be additional grading that's required there, but in the end, ultimately, limited impact on the parking space or on the recreational fields. That was a lot of the input that we received from the neighborhood and from the community. So that is the specifics of the layout, the plan. This would be a summary of the concept cost estimate. You'll see in a minute the plan, the schedule, timeline for going forward, but we hopefully will be selecting a design consultant by the end of this year, and these cost estimates will be refined. But the three key line items are shown here: the intake and pump station, the storage tank, and the water treatment plant, totaling for the base project cost $15.3 million, and then a summary of impact costs, and the current estimate is about $16.2 million. And so that will be the request that we would go forward to the Georgia Environmental Facilities Authority with for loan money. We have been through a number of options and discussions, and the timeline for the remaining steps is demonstrated here. Once we have the decision on the recommended option, the geotechnical results of the report, we have discussed the impact on other options. Basically what it says for the selected option is that this will be a suitable location. We will have some grading and compaction that will be required, but it will not be excessive rock excavation or other serious potential based on the results that we have. We expect later this week, with your approval, to issue a request for proposals for design services, and following an appropriate time for review and presentations from those consultants, we plan to bring back a recommendation to you in December and initiate design engineering in January of next year. During the same period, we will be developing our loan application and bring that forward. By the time that we bring forward the application, the selection of the consultant to you in December, we expect to have the refined financial considerations that we would take forward to GFA, and Keith Lee is available to give you more detail about that if you so choose. Under this scenario, then, we would begin construction in fall of 2013, and we believe that that will satisfy our requirement to Georgia EPD to have beneficial use under the permit within 2 years of the December 2011 approval. So that is the summary of where we've been. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Moore, who will be paying for this design work and this construction project?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's an excellent question. This is all to be paid for from the Water Fund. That's a proprietary fund that the only source of revenue is those citizens who are served by the Roswell water system. It's approximately 18 to 20% of Roswell citizenry. And generally, City Hall, some to the west. The service area is entirely to the south of Holcomb Bridge and entirely to the west of Georgia 400. That's just a rough approximation, but anyway, to answer your question, this is strictly to be, this will not be funded by tax dollars, strictly revenues of the water fund.
Is it fair to say that the reason the Roswell Water Plant has not expanded to serve all the citizens of Roswell is we have not been able to obtain a water withdrawal permit to serve all those citizens? That's absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor. We had applied 10 or 12 years ago for a permit to withdraw water from the Chattahoochee River that would allow us to expand and satisfy the needs of the community. That permit has not been approved. Does the council have any other questions? Do we have a motion? A reluctant motion.
Well, interestingly enough, I think I can make a motion, but there are three parts to this, and I have no problem. Well, I think we worked out the issues with both the RFP for the design and the loan. As many of you know, we've had a lot of concerns over the actual design of the plant, and we have had many, we haven't really gone into detail, but a lot of public meetings where we discussed locations of things and responded, I think, to a lot of public concerns about where the first plan set things up. And then over time, I think we've worked most of that out. And some of us, well, at least two of us, had some issues. And one of the key things that we've had an opportunity, I think, perhaps for, and one thing came out of the Greenville trip, is there is this bluff kind of where the existing plant is and where part of the new plant could be that overlooks what is now not much, but could potentially be something. And so my goal has been to try and save as much of that as possible. So I would not support this as it currently is, but Mr. Moore and I have talked for a long time about these things, and this is a concept, and we can still hopefully kind of massage some of this. So I will make the motion to approve the issue for an RFP for the design services to approve and submit a GFA loan application not to exceed 16.2. Everybody please listen to the final. Approve the water treatment plan concept plan with the direction that we will do everything possible to maximize the open space to the west and south of the existing plant or the existing concept. And I hope that will give the direction to squeeze as much as we can, do whatever we can to make as much of that as possible, because it could actually turn out to where this final plan is as much as we tried for during the whole process to save some of that. As we talked about vision just a minute ago, I think that's something that could be very long-term, that could be great benefit to the city and citizens. So I'm hoping that that can be what happens.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir.
Is the motion by Councilman Eaglehart clear enough to give you the direction to move forward?
Yes, sir. We spoke earlier, and let me say, my personal pledge to you is that we will, as a first step of the design development process, have a meeting, solicit objectives so that the designers have a very clear picture of all of the factors that need to go into the design. Obviously, we want to have an efficient water treatment plant, but we have some valuable properties here that need to be incorporated from the first day into the design, and I'm hesitant to make an adjustment to the conceptual plan, but I am confident that in the design process that adjustments can be made that will facilitate the development of
So we'll try to
area.
minimize the footprint.
Yes, sir. You've summarized it nicely.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilman DiPolito. At this time, we'll hear from comments from the floor. Does anyone wish to comment or have any questions? If you'd raise your hand, I'll recognize you. Yes, sir. Come forward, please. If you'll give us your name and address. And you are familiar with the time limits that council has imposed on all speakers.
Yes, sir, I am. Lee Fleck, Martin's Landing. I have just a series of questions that I'd like Stu to answer. But first, I want was there a press release for the nature of this meeting here tonight in your legal instrument? Can I have a yes or a no?
I would turn to Council Kay Love. If that's a yes or no, Kay, you do not need to explain it.
Yes.
Well, then I did not see anything in the local media. Did they? Well, in the neighbor, did they drop the ball again?
That's a yes or no, Kay.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, well then it wasn't publicly announced appropriately. Do you feel that you have vetted this issue with your customers well to include Phase 2? I'm well aware that Councilwoman Wynn did a marvelous job increasing the permits so that you could get your 3 million gallons, which only meets your current capacity needs. And discussions that I've heard on numerous occasions since some of the last meetings were that there's no growth, no potential to expand. And that's where Phase 2 allowed you additional capacity, and I do have the original Phase 2 present, but I know that it was never breached publicly, and that Phase 2 allowed that within 5 years after the plant was built, allowed you to develop the Cobb County wells, and the cost of that was an additional $4 million. This was all in the original master plan. So I don't really know whether that's a dead issue or how you plan to increase capacity with the projected 3%, 4%, 5% growth that I've heard that you're going to do in this area. I think that I'd like to hear some more about your ability to increase your withdrawals or your capacity to cover future growth. Otherwise, to build something just to handle what you need now, I don't do business that way in my real life. Thank you.
At this time, we'll ask Mr. Mooring to respond to that, if the question to the extent that you understand it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Fleck. The current plan is based on a study of demands and actually does provide for growth of our demand in the service area over the next 20 to 25 years. As a part of our permit, our withdrawal is allowed to be a monthly average of 2.8 million gallons a day, which is more than our current demand, even on our heaviest day. But it also allows for a peak day demand of 4.5 million gallons a day. So we fully believe that will satisfy the demands that we have over the planning horizon.
Thank you, sir. Yes, come forward, please.
My name is Janet Russell. I live at 260 Willow Springs Drive, and I'm one of the residents who will be affected by this water treatment plant. Mr. Mooring said that they began this process about 10 months ago. Actually, it began about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, a project like this, I don't believe anyone but Mr. Orleans and Mr. Eigelhart sat on council and the mayor. The projected cost was $8 million. At one of your little informational design meetings at the Adult Recreation Center, I asked Miss Love why it had gone to $16 million, and she told me, we've added a few things. Those few things are 8 million things, and they are called dollars. I am not a Tea Party person at all. I am a proud Democrat, actually. However, I don't believe that we need to be paying for things that we don't need. And here's a few statistics why I think you should vote against this project. First of all of these designs, timelines, everything there is predicated on the idea that we need this water treatment plant. Back in the olden days when Roswell was a village and it was surrounded by farmland, every city sort of provided for their own water with water storage tanks, etc. I grew up in a water family in the Bay Area. My dad worked for the East Bay Municipal Utility District for over 40 years, so I'm very familiar with water. How to save it and how to use it, and where it comes from and where it goes. I have a few statistics for you, and I hope that, when I read the request for a proposal in the Roswell Neighbor for the design, I thought, this is a fait accompli. That's French for slam dunk. Thank you. Now, most of you have already made your decision. I've learned that after coming here for almost 40 years that you make all the decisions in the back room and then you come out here and you listen with glazed expressions. Sometimes you nod. You're all really nice individually, but something happens when you get up there. So here's a few statistics. Sandy Springs population is 94,000. They get their water from the city of Atlanta. Alpharetta has 58,000. They get their water from Fulton County. Milton, our new neighbor to the north, has a population of 32,661. They get their water from Fulton County. Johns Creek, and this was a surprise to me, has a population of 76,728 people. And guess where they get their water? Fulton County. City of Roswell has approximately 92,000 people. And of that, there are 27,000, basically, addresses that receive water. Of that 27,000, 22,000 get water from Fulton County, and 5,000 get it from the city of Roswell. That brings a grand total to approximately 341,000 people in North Fulton who get their water from Fulton County, and about 20,000 who live in the Central Corridor who continue to get their water from the city of Roswell. The city of Roswell's water costs more per 1,000 gallons. Back in May, when I found out that you had $1,200,000 in the Water Fund Reserve, I stood up here and said that if you have that much money in the reserve fund when you're only required to have $600,000, that you've been overcharging us for our water, and that probably we should all get our water for free for the next 2 or 3 years. Because you're not in the business to make money, you're in the business to provide service. That's one of your vision statements. 2 of your core values are flexibility and trust. Well, the trust has been broken with you. You did it when you privatized the garbage collection. You told us it wouldn't go up. You promised it in this very chamber, and in fact, my garbage bill has doubled. I'm not complaining about the service. The workers are great. I'm not complaining about the City of Roswell's water people. They are terrific people. You underestimate and you undervalue the employees in this city. One of the things you didn't mention in that core values vision statement was why people move here. You forgot to mention that 80% of the employees in the City of Roswell can't afford to live here because you don't pay them enough wages. So, here we are. 20% of the population of Roswell, and you want to spend $16 million to do what the Fulton County is already providing to 350,000 people. So I have to ask, why? Has the collective ego of the city gotten in the way of common sense? How many there? Mr. Orleans, where do you get your water? Can you answer? From whom do you receive your water?
I'm right on the cusp of Roswell, and I get it from Fulton County.
Okay, how about you, Mrs. Price? How about you, Mr. Eigelhart?
City of Roswell.
How about you, Miss Love?
Fulton County.
Mayor Wood? Okay, well, you got a well, you live in the boonies. We don't know how long. Okay, how about you, Mr. Davidson? Okay, no, don't worry. I've got people backing me on this. They've got my back. You've heard that expression. I'm not going away this time. Mr. Davidson? Mr. Davidson? Thank you. Mr. Davidson?
Fulton County.
Miss Wynn? How about you, Mr. DiPolito?
Fulton County.
How about you, Miss Diamond? Oh, you represent the City of Roswell. You're a little microcosm up there. One person out of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people get their water from Fulton County, but you're willing to spend $16 million and ask the people that are going to get that water to pay for it. Now, you've told us in the past, I'm wrapping it up, Mayor Wood, but I've got 10 people that are going to come up here and yield to me, so be prepared. You can either wait and have them walk up or not.
Wrap it up.
Now, I've asked how many times, how much is this increase going to cost the individual person who receives water, and I've been told $1 a month increase. $1.
Janet, it's time to sit down.
That's $12 a year
Janet,
times $5,700, which is $62,000. Miss Wynn looks interested.
I'd appreciate it.
I'm Vivian Benson. I live on 209 Prospect.
Vivian, you have not been recognized. I will be glad to call you next.
I would like for her.
Janet Russell, you may have a seat.
Speak for me. Thank you.
She just asked me to speak for her. Thank you.
We have no provision to allow someone to speak for someone else. Janet,
$62,000 does not pay the interest on the debt.
Escort out. Janet,
I'll
would you
be
like to
leaving
sit
in a minute,
down?
Officer and Chief.
Janet, would you like to sit down?
Well, tomorrow the TV's going to interview me,
Janet?
so you can better get prepared tonight.
Thank you. Janet may have a seat. If anyone else wishes to speak, we'll call upon them now. Does anyone else wish to speak?
This is how the city works.
If you'd like to speak, Stu, if you'll have a seat. If anyone else wishes to speak, I'll be glad to recognize you. Come forward, please, if you give us your name and address. And for the process, the council has passed a resolution allowing each citizen 5 minutes to speak. The green light will come on when you begin speaking, a yellow light at 2 minutes, and a red light when your time is up. Thank you. You may proceed.
I'm Vivian Benson. I live on 209 Prospect Street in Roswell, and I'm appalled that Janet Russell is not allowed to speak. I am not as informed as her, and I would like to know about the money. You know, I've lived here for almost 40 years. And this is of a real interest to me, and as I say, she is much more informed than I am, and I would like for her to speak for me. Thank you.
If you have a question, we'll be glad to answer it. Does anyone else wish to speak? Hearing no other questions, we'll close the public hearing. Well, I did not. If she has a question, if you can ask her question for her, I did not understand as a question. You may ask that question.
I think she was asking a question about the cost, which Stu was going to address.
I think we got the answer. The money's coming from the enterprise fund as far as how the costs are competitive.
Yes, sir, thank you. But to clarify one point, the statement was made that previously the water plant plan was going to be about $8 million, and now it's 16. The water plant construction, if you'll see on this chart, is $9.0 million. The remainder is for the intake, the storage tank, and then the impact figures for modifications that will be required to the Recreation and Parks yard and changes to the Water Resources yard. So if you compare the $8 million to 16, it's a misimpression. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no hands up, we'll entertain discussion from council before we take a vote. Anyone have any comments before we take a vote? Seeing no one hands up, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. That's a unanimous vote. I'd like to, if I were voting, I would be voting in support of this because I believe, although Fulton County does provide water for many of our residents, I would like one day not to be in Fulton County. I'd like to be in the county of Milton. What I find is that when someone has a monopoly with no competition at all, prices rise. I think by having our own system, we stay in the game, we help keep prices down, and I don't wish to be 100% dependent upon Fulton County. And Sandy Springs will tell you what happens when you're 100% dependent upon someone else and have no competition. So I do believe this was the right decision from council, and it will not only help the folks who are on the Roswell water system, it will help folks that are not on the water system like Councilman Orleans, and it will even help people like me who live out in the boonies and get their water from a well. And I think the Roswell water is the best in the state. And having said that, what's next on the agenda? Well, that's for me to know. Rec and Parks, I'll call Councilman Orleans.
First item on the agenda is approval of contract for cultural services program funding allocations in the total amount of $25,000. And I believe Morgan Timmis is here to discuss and outline this to the council.
Thank you, Councilman Orleans, Mayor, and the rest of council. As I think most of you are aware, we very gratefully received the $25,000 that was allocated in our fiscal year 13 budget for distribution to our arts and cultural organizations in Roswell, and we enlisted a volunteer peer review panel. They reviewed all the applications and made a set of funding recommendations. Those were then presented to the Cultural Arts Board, and the Cultural Arts Board approved those recommendations, and you have the allocations in front of you, I believe, for 8 of the 9 organizations that requested funding.
Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
I move for approval of the allocation as recommended.
Motion for approval of the allocation is recommended. Is there a second? Second. Motion by Councilman Orleans, second by Councilman Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a number of us on council, when this line item allocation was made, we're not necessarily anticipating the way that it would be distributed or the process by which that occurred. And I know that we had a panel of distinguished reviewers from, I think many of them from outside of the city, and as such may have been very familiar with the process of allocating funding possibly from foundations or private entities. But given that this is taxpayer money, I'm just a little concerned about the process, and I hope that when we go forward in the future that we look at it a little differently, because our own internal criteria were that they would go to cultural arts entities, and a couple of them are actually education entities, and I hate to see us getting mixed into education from the city. I think there's certainly a role for the arts in education. There's a role for the arts in our city as it pertains to the population at large being able to appreciate and gain from these monies that we are allocated, but I don't like to see monies going to a specific school or a specific entity that would have very limited impact in the ability of people to appreciate that funding, and in some cases here, a rather large allocation. So I know we did have this in the line item, and the money is definitely there. My objection is to our own internal criteria, and did we get to that point using our outside peer review group. So that's my reservation, and I don't want to be against this because I think there's some valid entities in here, but I cannot support moving forward with this expenditure of taxpayer money, so I'm going to abstain from this vote.
I appreciate your position. This is a work in progress. This was our first year. I'm sure, I would encourage council if they have suggestions how to make this a better process. I am open to those suggestions, and I believe this was a good first year, and I want to compliment everyone who was involved in the allocation of this money, and I'm sure that the return will greatly exceed the expense on this $25,000. Any further discussion by council? Wait a minute, did I ask if there was any public comment? Yeah. I did. Is there any public comment? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's Councilman Orleans, Eigelhart, Wynn, DiPolito, and Diamond. Do we have Councilmember Price? Are you abstaining or voting no? Just for the record.
Yes, I'm abstaining for reasons of questioning the process.
As stated. So we have, that passes by a vote of 5 with 1 abstention. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Councilman
Next
Orleans,
item,
moving right along.
Next item on the agenda is approval of budget amendment 75403-10-22-12 for the historic mill restrooms and machine shop improvements projects in the amount of $127,253. And here to answer any questions is Jeff Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Orleans. Mayor and Council. The budget adjustment we're asking for, we came to the work session in October. The revenue sources from these projects were twofold. The first project was last year's fiscal budget. We were under budget for the project. The second project, Recreation Commission and Mayor and Council worked together and revisited the project along with transportation projects that are along Riverside Road. And we asked to reallocate that funding for the additional repair of the historic walls, the restroom project, as well as some landscaping items. Also, Mayor and Council has expressed interest for the first level of the old machine shop being a special event facility. So we're asking for that budget amendment.
The council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move for approval of the budget amendment as discussed.
Is there a second? Second by Councilman Eigelhart, motion by Councilman Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval of budget.
Before you go on, I want to remind all the council members we have a
lunch
cookout tomorrow. And Jeff, are you cooking?
Yes, sir.
We'll see you then.
Mayor's cooking too, isn't he?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Jeff, the mayor's cooking too, isn't he?
I just give orders. I don't do anything.
He's going to be there. Have a apron for him, will you?
I was told by his administrative staff to keep him away from the grill.
Next item is approval of budget amendment 5556-1200-10-22-12 to increase the rec participation fund expenditure budget in the amount of $150,000 and this also will be presented by Mr. Jeff Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Orleans. Again, this is a house cleaning item with the budget allocation of the $30,000 to cover the existing budgeted items previously approved by this council. The $120,000 we're asking for out of the Recreation Participant Fund would be for the Adult Recreation Center fitness improvement, $50,000. $50,000 for the Art Center East, which many of you know it as the Gibson House. $20,000 for the Ace Sand Company Don White Park Sand Volleyball area, which we're laying out and got permits for, along with the picnic amenities for the picnic pavilion, which will be going in hopefully at the first of this next year.
All right, and so for the record, what's the source of this money?
Recreation Participant Fund.
So this is money that the Rec Participation Fund has in savings, and we're going to take some of that reserve for these capital expenditures and a little bit of programming.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Does the council have any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Pruitt, you said $120,000. I have $150,000, so you did not mention Roswell Presents series. Is that in or out? No, the item number 3.
To my knowledge, it's not in this
Okay,
fund.
'cause I'm just curious because I have $150,000, and that's what's on everything, and it's Roswell Presents series. So I just want to make sure what we're voting on before I cast my vote.
We'd like to hear from K-Love.
That was included, $150,000.
Is included. The $30,000 is not a capital expenditure. There's $120,000 for capital, and then the $30,000. The total for the Rec Participation Fund is $150,000.
Oh, so there is a total of $150. It's just
Yes,
that
ma'am.
120 is coming
It's
out
the
of one
line
pot.
items.
Gotcha. Okay, so we are voting on the $150.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move for approval of the budget amendment.
Motion by Councilman Orleans to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $150,000 from the Rec Participation Fund. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time we'll call upon Administration and Finance Department Councilmember Rich DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is approval of the 2013 CDBG applications and the allocations associated with them. And I'd like to call to the podium Mr. Fisher, Mr. Blitch, and Mr. Alford, who doesn't get to get in front of us very often. So welcome, Charles. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Mr. DiPolito. I appreciate that introduction. We do have the whole team here for you today. We have a very brief presentation just to talk a little bit about what this CDBG is. It's been an ongoing process. Tonight there's a total of $160,000 worth of funds that need to be appropriated for projects for the CDBG. We're doing this as part of the consolidated plan that is really a combined plan for the next 4 years of what we're doing with these funds. As a part of the consolidated plan, there's an action plan. The action plan is what includes the projects that we will be doing over the next year, and that is what we're going to be looking at tonight. There is several projects that we're going to be moving towards getting approval tonight. The Child Development Association was one for replacing some fire and smoke alarms. City of Roswell Recreation and Parks for doing some ADA improvements and some additional work off of Grimes Bridge Road on one of their facilities. The Drake House is asking for repairs for the multifamily housing and some of the roofs and downspouts that they have on their facilities. Families First has requested some funding to actually increase some of the therapist services they have and for the mental health services they provide. Homestretch Housing Initiative of North Fulton is doing repairs for their multifamily housing, and part of those funds go to the facility manager for that person's annual salary. North Fulton Community Charities is looking to make some repairs to their facility and to resurface some of their parking lot and sidewalk areas. North Georgia Community Development Housing Corporation, also known as Habitat, is working with some of the Habitat homes trying to develop another home. Senior Services of North Fulton has requested funds to increase their transportation program that they currently provide. And the YMCA of Metropolitan Atlanta has requested funds to establish and continue to work with their after-school program. Those are the projects that we're looking at tonight that have requested funding from the CDBG. Obviously, the requested was more than what was available to allocate. We've talked in committee meeting in the past about what the different projects are and how to allocate. I want to thank you very much for your input that you have given, Mayor and Council, on what kind of allocations would be available and what you would have in mind. I know Councilmember DiPolito has recommendations and has helped as the liaison to pull this all together. From the staff standpoint, we took the input from the Mayor and from the Council and basically have come up with what recommendation that we think would be appropriate for these projects, and it's an average of the input that we've gotten. Most of the projects were united from each one of you on what projects were available to be funded, so an average, the only real difference we saw was on some of the values that were put forth. So basically an average was taking of those values for the different projects to total up to $160,000, and what you have on the screen before you would be the recommendation after gathering your input and your information on how best to appropriate the funds for the 2013 CDBG. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to.
For the folks in the audience, when you say CDBG,
Community Development Block Grant. It's a grant for low
this is a grant from the federal government to the city.
Correct.
And we would explain for the folks in the audience the limitations on how this money can be used.
Danny, you want to fill in? Danny Blitch is our grants manager, and Danny can give a much more detailed answer than what I would.
Yes, if you can explain, we can't spend this anywhere we want. There are limitations on how it can be spent, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to be in front of you guys again. CDBG is a Community Development Block Grant. It is a federal program from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the funds are to be spent in 3 areas for low-income persons, low to moderate income persons, for immediate threat and danger, as well as demolition of blight or slum properties.
There were seniors was another category.
As long as they're low to moderate income persons, and the seniors happen to be a program that is qualifies automatically because of their age and status.
Thank you. Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to clarify, well, not clarify, but add to what Mr. Fisher was saying about how these numbers came about. We had taken a look at all the input we had gotten from the mayor and council, and a lot of the numbers were very close. It was just a difference of a few $1,000s here and there in each of the various categories. And in taking a look at an average, it just seemed to come pretty close to what each person suggested. And it's not any one person's individual preference, but just kind of takes into account all the input that we received. The one item that is not shown on here, and by the way, this was just completed prior to the work session, so we didn't have time to distribute this prior to the meeting. So that's one of the reasons you're seeing it right here, right now. The other one item that's not shown on here was a previous allocation that we made for $177,587 to the Roswell Housing Authority, which we had approved in a prior meeting for their submission for the redevelopment of their property.
Any further discussion before I entertain a motion? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, and this is based upon the schedule that's on the screen.
That's correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Orlins. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Further discussion? Yes. It was your hand up. Yes, come forward, please.
Good evening. Sarah Imbro, property owner, 111 Spring Drive. As the Chief Development Officer of Families First and a past resident and current property owner in Roswell, I appreciate the family values that the City of Roswell holds. We applied for a grant with the CDBG funding for first time in the City of Roswell to assist with mental health services that we provide, and we would like, if there's opportunity to present further information for our grant request at this time, we'd like that opportunity to readdress that, but we appreciate being considered.
You have 5 minutes if you'd like to take it.
Well, thank you very much. So our request is to offer low-income Roswell residents access to affordable primary mental health care services that are otherwise unaffordable and inaccessible. And so that's based on the AMI family income at below 30% would receive services free of charge, and those with incomes between 31 and 50% would pay a $5 copay, and those between 51 and 80% pay a $15 copay. This grant would be able to help us continue to provide those services as our capacity has grown and the need has grown, so it would help increase our capacity to provide those services.
Does the council have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will give my comments on that, and thank you for what you do for Families First, and we do value families. I have taken the position that I'm supporting capital projects and not operating projects, not because of any favor to one group, but from a sort of a principle of because these are not annual grants that we're granting, they are sort of a one-time grant, and where there's no commitment to the grant the next year. I have felt capital projects sort of come and go. Your operating expenses are every year, and so I've just felt more comfortable in funding things that aren't on a recurring basis, and I know operating expenses are recurring, but it does not reflect on Families First or any of these other organizations. It was a philosophy about capital projects versus operating costs. But I do support your organization and all of these organizations. Having said that, I'm not going to vote because I don't expect to tie. Other comments before I entertain it? We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price. I apologize. I didn't know I didn't see any other hands up. We'll be glad to recognize you.
Okay, I'm Sue Dupart, 500 Chatterwood Court, and I'm curious what the YMCA of Metropolitan Atlanta, how is that money used?
If we could
is that
ask our grants administrator.
In Roswell or outside?
Yes, Charles is going back to the slide, but it is for scholarships to participate in our after-school program that occurs at Waller Park and Waller Park Extension.
What I was thinking personally, if some of those programs were on-site at the school, I think the students would have more self-esteem, have more identity, in the school setting, either, gardens or... I'm just curious, when they're being moved, throughout the day, it's a long day, those children, that spend 10 hours at the school. I think if they were doing something on-site instead of being transported, it might be more personal identity validation for the child, and it might be give them a more community awareness of their school, more respect for the facility, more likely to carry on pride in their time spent in the classroom. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no hands up, we're going to close the public hearing. Any further discussion by council? Yes, Councilmember Diamond.
I wanted to speak to the Families First. I think I had no issue with the program and what it does. My concern was that it was so new to our area that, we generally, in this cycle, and I think in the cycle that it came from out of Fulton County, it was a 2 or 3 year in before eligibility for that, which, doesn't mean you haven't been in Atlanta for longer than that. But given that the lease was fairly short in Roswell and it was still a fairly new, do you want to correct me on that? I'm happy to be corrected.
Okay, if you need to speak, please come forward. We want to get this on the record. And if you'll give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Julie Knapp, 3202 Lake Point Circle, Roswell, Georgia. I've actually been in that office for 8.5 years, and I believe the person before me was there for 3 years. So we've actually been around in Roswell for a long time. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council before we take a vote? Councilmember Price.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the philosophy of capital assistance versus programmatic assistance or operating expenses. And a couple of the items, the two final ones, I know I had requested more than that, but they have in the past have a history of receiving funding from Fulton County, and in the process of us now taking over this, the fact that they didn't have capital funding or capital project as part of their request, it had not ever been a problem with Fulton County, and as they distributed these grants monies. So I didn't know that if we wanted to make a policy of doing that, that's one thing, but they certainly have a history of being supported in this fashion. And I know the Senior Services for North Fulton, whose board I've served on, if you ask them their top 3 concerns, they are number 1, transportation, number 2, transportation, and number 3, transportation. So their needs are huge in that area to deliver their services, and they have rental space. So there's nothing capital for them to be working on. So I just want to kind of point out that we can't always make that distinction, as some entities do, and the private groups that award monies for special projects, but that we are integral as the decider of these funding to assist them in the programs that they're delivering. And since they have been getting them and have replied to us at this point as it's new.
Anyone else wish to comment before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Councilmember Diamond, are you voting?
Yes.
All in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. DiPolito, if you'll call the next item.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
I think we talked about the fact that if this set-aside that we did for the public housing grant did not come through, which we should know in the next 2 months, then that money will be reallocated within this framework, so this is not the only opportunity, potentially.
I also wanted to add that I'd like for staff to confirm with each of the applicants that when you speak with them about the award that they've received, if for some reason they can't use a partial award, that you come back to the council with any amounts not funded so we can redistribute those.
Yes, sir, Mr. DiPolito, we most certainly will.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of an ordinance to amend the City of Roswell, Georgia Municipal Employees Benefit Services Retirement Plan. This is the first reading. Mr. Roach.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. Mr. Mayor, members of council, this request is to amend our defined benefit pension plan, which was frozen to new entrants effective March the 1st of 2011, with the sole purpose of the amendment to be to allow staff to report severance pay as part of final pay for pension benefit calculation purposes. And I understand this requires an ordinance be passed, and Mr. Davidson has the ordinance.
Mr. Davidson, if you'd please read the first reading of the ordinance.
Thank you. Be it ordained by the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, and hereby ordained by authority thereof, that the retirement plan for the employees of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended and restated as set forth herein, and subject to the terms and conditions stated in the following adoption agreement, any addendum to the adoption agreement, the Georgia Municipal Employees Benefit System Master Plan document,
and the Georgia Municipal Employees Benefit Systems Trust Agreement. And if approved, this would be the first reading.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approve the ordinance to amend the retirement plan. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wind. Does the council have any questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Councilman Eichelhardt confuses me there with his getting ready. All right, next item, please.
Next item is approval of a lease agreement between the City of Roswell and the Roswell Business Alliance to use office space in the city-owned building located at 617 Atlanta Street. And I'm a little confused why these folks need office space, because they are on the street meeting with their businesses constantly. Every time I go out in the City of Roswell, I run into somebody from the RBA, which is a wonderful thing. So thank you all for what you do. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. DiPolito. This has been a work in progress as we've gone through and got the facility prepared and ready for the RBA. Steve has been a wonderful resource for us in trying to set up what he needs, the infrastructure that goes in and on. His patience has been very much appreciated as we've moved forward, but we think we've got it done. We've got a nice floor plan drawing of the square footage, and this contract, or for this lease, is for 808 square feet, and it comes out to $909 a month, and we would ask for your approval on the lease.
Could you tell me what that is per square foot per year? I know how that's typically quoted.
$13.50.
Thank you, sir. Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember Diamond.
Mr. Fisher, is this space all cleared out now? Is that all available to the RBA yet?
It is for what is currently in this lease. As we go into the other area, there's another large area where the Historical Society had some additional archive material that we're working on clearing out at some point.
Okay.
So for what they have right now, the square footage of 808 feet is included.
It just doesn't feel like 800 square feet. Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
The next item is an update on the fiscal year 2012 audit. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. Tonight I wanted just to provide you with an update of our FY12 audit. To begin, I'll let you know what we have completed. We've completed approved payables and salaries, the CFA schedule and the single audit, which is related to our federal grants, our component unit financials for Bullock Hall and the CVB, UB receivables and unbilled accounts and utility billing, our bank confirmations, as well as collateral. We are currently working on capital assets, property tax receivables, unclaimed property, and petty cash. We still have work to do on compensated absences, accrued workman's comp, as well as open POs. The auditors were here last week working on the CFA. They will return next Monday. We are working to complete this audit by 12/31/2012. And in terms of fund balance in the general fund, we budgeted to use $6.247 million in FY12. At present, we are estimating we will have used $4.869 million.
Thank you for the update. Does the council have any questions about the ongoing audit? Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Lee, when do you expect to have the audit completed?
By December 31st of this year, we'll do the presentation of the CAFR in January or February of this year.
Okay, so it will be completed. It will come to council in January?
For the CAFR, we would expect to present the CAFR in January or February, depending on how the schedule works out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond.
Yes, sir. This is approval of a resolution establishing fees for zoning, building, and other departments, and Ms. Alice Wakefield is here to tell us about it.
This is a request to establish the various fees for zoning, building, and other related items by resolution. This necessity came about as we had moved forward with building that portion of the ERP system for the fee schedule, and we realized that we had fees that were approved over 10 years ago, and some were approved by ordinance, some were approved by resolution, some were approved based on different fee schedules that no longer exist, and in some cases we were charging fees that there was no legal basis in terms of a resolution or ordinance behind them, such as the engineering fees. So what we tried to do was to come up with a comprehensive fee schedule where we are not increasing the fees, and I'll show you a graphic in a few minutes that shows that we're not increasing the fees thanks to the assistance of the finance director. But what we heard at the committee meetings, we're asking for some minor changes to the fee schedule. One, we're asking that the fee schedule be effective, if approved, December the 10th. And the reason we're asking for December the 10th because that is the date in which we go live with the ERP, and the current system is not set up for this fee schedule. Secondly, we have a fee schedule set up for the river corridor, and that's $250. And basically what we do is we take the check and we send it to ARC. But we've discovered that ARC has kind of a range of fees depending on the use that they charge, so we're asking that that provision be removed. Also, we're asking that the fee for a roofing permit, which we had proposed for $100, be revised to reflect just the valuation of the work. So if you're doing a re-roofing and it's $2,000, you'll pay the $25 application fee and the $25 fee. The major change that we're proposing here is related to building permits. Currently, the way we do building permits, we have valuation, and the valuation is based on the BOCA codes, which, again, that's the code that no longer exists, and that's for the construction of the property. We then have individual permit fees for electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. And currently, if you're building a house, your contractor would come in and get the construction permit, and then the trade would have to come in, the electrician, the plumber, the mechanical person would have to come in and get separate permits. We're asking that we go to full valuation for the entire permit process. That way, the general contractor can come in and get the permit for the entire package. And I'm going to show you this graphic here. I hope you can see that. And what we're proposing here, that if you're building a home, for example, if you're building a home, say a $250,000 home, and you come in today and you get a permit, your fee would be $1,308, and that would be $910 for the construction permit, $398 for the trade permit. Under the new fee schedule, you will come in and you would pay one fee of $1,229. It appears that it's a little lower, which I think is a great thing for the citizens, but when you average it all out, it's basically runs the same. The only other thing that we're adding, not really adding, but we are going to be collecting that we haven't done in the past, is the $25 application fee. As I mentioned in committee, there are many, many applications that we receive, we process, and they're never picked up for whatever reason, or someone changes their mind, but still there has been some work that's been done by staff on those permits. So with that said, we ask that this fee schedule be approved so we can move forward in completing the build-out of the ERP system, that section that deals with fees.
Does the council have any questions? Councilman Orland.
I have several questions that I want to get on the record here as well, but then I have some questions about the cost and the fees, quote-unquote, not changing, that maybe we need to get clarified over the next week or so. And mind you, I'm not an expert on this, so I'm trying to convey what I've been learning. first thing is, and Alice, I mentioned this to you earlier, and actually my figures were not totally up to date. On residential building, if someone builds a $500,000 house currently, the fees are going to be $1,600. And from what I'm figuring out, when you take permit fees, add CO fees, add plan reviews, add architectural plans, the plan review is 50% of the permit fee, which is new. And before we never had, not we, again, I don't do them, but before someone did not have to turn in a plan for a house. Now they do have to put in plans. So then we're going to have to review them, of course. So what was a $1,600 fee is now going to be a $9,000 fee. And we're going to have stamped architectural drawings, of course, now. Again, where before we didn't have any real outline of drawings needed. So that's kind of a concern of mine, that maybe we can have it looked into and a little better consensus report come back so we can all understand it better. And then separately, I see it's good to see that we're eliminating a $100 fee on residential roofs. For the record, I want to ask the question that to come in and get that permit just to put a roof on your house, that it's not going to be a long drawn-out process like our building permit process, but more like an example I gave you earlier was more like walking in and getting a garage sale sign permit. So that is one question. It's just strictly on the processing. The other thing is on requiring the actual plans to be submitted now, I want to again confirm on the record that they can be concurrent with somebody trying to get an LDP, so that we don't have to do one before the other one can start, again adding a lot of time. So that's the second question. And that again, this
Would you like those answered as you go so we
No,
can...
she can answer them at the end. Thirdly, the building permit fee will be kind of an easy one-pager, again, not trying to get into a long, drawn-out process, similar to what we do for an LDP review. And then thirdly, I know, Alice, you mentioned a December 10th effective date. I was going to ask for at least a 60-day delay from approval to effective date, because you have some contractors, builders out there that already have quotes out with our old fees in place, so I'd like to give them a good 60 days to have those cleared out and done and awareness before they're quoting on new projects to come in. But my one concern is the cost of an example of a $500,000 house and how much that's jumping up, and the now going to the building plans requirement. So I don't know if that can be answered tonight, or if we can delay this to get those fees looked at to make sure we're not just jumping them way up. And I understand where you said that some of the other permits are going to be waived, like the electric and the plumbing and so forth, but I guess tonight I don't know how those all balance out.
Well, I'll try to explain. Well, the trade permits are not waived. They're just based on the valuation of the costs to do the work, and it's incorporated in as part of the building permit. We currently already charge a plan review fee of 1/2 of the building permit fee, so that's not something that's new. We currently require the $25 application fee as part of building permits, so that is nothing new.
Wait a minute, before you go on, the 50% of the permit fee for plan review.
Yes, sir.
But I thought we didn't even require necessarily to plan a plan for a house, residential house.
We are requiring now a plan for residential homes. You have to come in, you have to get a permit. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's different.
Yes, sir.
So those fees are different. So
that's the case with the permit, when, as I said, we painfully, at least painfully for Mr. Lee, we went through and tried to do an analysis to make sure that the base fee was not going up. We didn't touch the plan review fee because that was already in place. So we can double check that if you want us to do that. That's not a problem. As far as the LDP and the building permit, you currently can submit concurrently your LDP and your building permit. We just will not issue your building permit until that LDP has been resolved. That is a provision that's already in place. You don't have to do plan review first and then do building. So that's something that a lot of developers take advantage of, and that is systems that we do. In terms of a roofing permit, that is something that we can process very quickly. I can't say we'll process it as quickly as a garage sale permit, but it's a 1 or 2 day permit that we can issue fairly easily. And I think that as far as the fee schedule, if approved tonight, we will definitely send out notices on emails and work with community relations to get out the information to the different builders. Our chief building official and his staff currently has a great relationship with a lot of the builders, and as part of the neighborhood improvement teams and working with them, we can get the word out to them about the change in the fee schedule. I think the change in the fee schedule will make it a lot easier for them to cost out their permit, because it's based on, they know the value of their proposal, and they know that that's what their fee would be based on. Currently now they have to try and count fixtures. They have to kind of get a discussion with the chief building official as to what's a fixture, what's not a fixture. They have to look at the sewer laterals, gas lines, and a lot of different things they wouldn't have to do.
I would encourage you and Councilman Orland, any other council members who are interested in the details of this, to get together. This is the first reading of the ordinance.
No, there's only one vote.
Resolution? So, do we, Mr. Orleans, are you asking for a deferral tonight?
Yes, I think to get these things clarified.
Let's see if the council wishes to defer it tonight. Is there a motion for deferral?
I have a quick question, I guess.
Let's see if we're going to have a deferral first before we get a quick question.
Well, I'm sure I'll move
see if
for
there's a motion and a second. We have a motion for deferral. Is there a second? There is a second. So let's try to limit our conversation to questions regarding whether we should defer it or not.
I had one last question, Alice, I'm sorry. And with these changes for, site plan and architectural plans now, again, timing's important. Time is money. Is it going to extend the period on residential homes more so than what we've had in the past? To go over and review the site plans and the architectural plans for a residential home again?
No, sir.
We have a
what would
motion to
estimate your
defer
time
and a
to be?
second. Does the council have any questions
Anywhere
regarding the
from
motion to defer?
a week to 2 weeks. I mean, that's kind of the normal to review plans.
Well, if we're deferring this tonight and we're not making a decision tonight, the council will have an opportunity to ask all the questions they need. We have a motion to defer and we have a second. Councilmember Diamond.
So to when do you suggest we defer this?
I would think that we should defer it
It's
November 14th.
as long as she, as it takes her Keith to put together some examples and outline what's
But the
going on.
29th give you sufficient time?
Next week is fifth Monday. So
We have an
maybe
agenda, we have a special call meeting.
in January. Oh, we do?
So you asking to defer it to the next meeting? Special call meeting?
Sure, if they can get it put together by then.
Think you'd be able to get together these answers?
Yes, sir. It's basically here. It's just a matter of dropping in
All right,
what the
so
plan review
we have a
cost
motion
is.
to defer until the 29th. And we had a second. Is that second concur? Who made the second?
Betty did.
We have a motion to defer until the 29th and a second. Discussion about the motion to defer. All in favor of the motion to defer, raise your
One
hands.
point, Chair, one point.
Passes. Councilman Orleans, we have a vote.
One point on the deferral is, if we're not going to get the information until Friday of this week for Monday's meeting, then I think we need a longer delay.
You will get it before Friday.
Okay.
We have a motion for deferral and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to defer? Raise. That's unanimous. Councilman Orleans, if you're not comfortable with a the information that's available to you by Friday, you can seek to further deferral. I'll be gone.
Thank you.
All right, we have a recommendation for closure. It will be brief. We'll meet immediately in the downstairs, and if you're late, you're going to be left. Do we have a motion to defer? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Passes unanimously. Let's turn it.
Downstairs and I'll take it from there.
Okay.
Because I got my fixed back. Thank you.